Hey, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Owning Your Sexual Self. Thank you for continuing to be a listener of the show. Been a busy time over here opening up Wellness Expertise, which is my private practice that brings sexual and mental health together. It's been a wild ride. Very excited to be officially be open and accepting more and more clients and also hiring my very first employees. So it's not just going to be me here offering these wonderful services. We'll have another therapist with us very soon. So stay tuned for that. And wanted to give a little intro to our guest today. This is a woman that I have been following for quite some time on social media, and recently she reached out and said, "Hey, I think I would like to come onto your show. I think I want to talk and teach your audience about some really cool things that I've been working on." And so today on the show, we have with us Susan Bratton, who is intimacy expert to millions. Yes, millions. You might have seen her in some social media. You might have seen her on TV, in magazines, blogs, all of the things. She's somebody that is just very defined in our area of this sex positive space. And so she's a champion and an advocate for all of those who desire intimacy and passion within their whole lifelong time. She's created hundreds of techniques that transform having sex into making love and is the world's most respected sexual biohacker. I'm super excited. And that's actually what we're going to get into on today's episode are ways to communicate better about sex with your partner and also going over some different techniques that you can try to, I'm going to assume, really enhance what sex means to you. So Susan is also the co-founder and the COO of two companies, Personal Life Media Incorporated, a publisher of the Better Health Lover brand of heart-connected lovemaking techniques and bedroom communication stills and sexual regenerative therapies. And the 20 LLC, a manufacturer of organic and botanical supplements that help enhance sexual vitality. Flow is a nitric oxide booster for better blood flow. The Desire multivitamin, multi-mineral substance has high quality methylated don't quote me on that, not a vitamin person or doctor. Methylated, I think, B vitamins and libido botanicals built in. Super awesome. She's been a spokesperson for Gainswave, FemiWave, and the Dr. Joel Kaplan's company, 3 sexual biohacking regenerative therapies, and really helping to increase a person's sex span, and really achieve this ageless sexuality because sexy sex does not have an age cap on it. This is something that you can enjoy no matter what age you are. So without further ado, let's have Susan join us on the episode. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope that you enjoy this show as much as I do. All right. Hi, Susan. Thank you so much again for coming on the show today. I'm so thrilled to have you.
Rachel, I'm in fantastic company. You have the most incredible people on your show. I've been looking forward to being with you and getting to meet you. You're my Instagram friend, and now I'm really very happy to meet the Rachel Maine.
Thank you for that. I have a friend that every time she refers to me, she says that the Rachel Maine, and her sister is like, "Why do you call her the Rachel Maine?" And she's like, "Because she's famous." And that always is
Yes.
so funny to me.
And it's her Instagram handle.
Yes, exactly. There's only one Rachel Maine. It is me.
Yay!
Yes, as in there's only one of you. And so I've been following you for quite some time, and so very excited to have you on the show today. Big respect for everything that you do and how you're helping your people. We get to talk about pleasure today, communication, some techniques, like all the things that I think listeners are really going to be excited to hear about today.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because a lot of people who are sex therapists and sexologists, they're dealing with one-on-one or with couples and working through, things that are obstacles in people's sex lives. People who say, I want more than I'm getting. I've got problems I want to solve, which I love the work that the world does in that vein, but I'm a little bit different. I am a publisher of passionate lovemaking techniques, bedroom communication skills, and what I would call intimate wellness.
Mhm.
Because what I like to do is I like to teach people how to transform having sex into making love. I like to transform friction into connection. Like instead of just rubbing our genitals together to get one orgasm, how do you get into this really incredible, sensual, heart connected, very conscious, very present, very surrendered, very, massively turned on, highly multi orgasmic, co creative interplay of pleasure that keeps getting better your whole life long.
Mhm.
Because at 62, I'm having the best sex of my life.
Mm.
I'm more confident, more satisfied, massively orgasmic, and I've taught myself everything. And then I call myself an orgasmonaut because I think orgasms are, it's great to have sex, it's great to be close, it's nice to have intimacy, but I want to come a lot, and I want my partner to come a lot. And I think that that level of pleasure is kind of like it's the high water mark for great sex, and it's all learned skills. And so that's what I like to do. I like to go to the far reaches of orgasmic outer space and come back with the map to that territory. I like to teach people the 20 kinds of orgasms. I like to teach them how to especially have orgasmic intercourse. But the interesting thing about it is that all the techniques in the world, you might as well throw them in the trash until you have good bedroom communication, until you know what you want and you can ask for it confidently, and your partner loves that and finds it exciting and doesn't take anything as like, that they're doing anything wrong.
Mhm.
And so communication is the foundation. I think it's Emily Moore. She says communication is lubrication. It's the foundation of really good sex that keeps getting better, because then you can try all these new things together and just have a lot of fun learning and getting better together, which creates new relationship energy, which is the antidote to the monotony of monogamy. And that's really kind of the direction that I provide is, okay, here's the communication. And then what's the ascension model of communication? Okay, now that I'm really comfortable talking and asking, and what's next after that? But then what are the techniques? And then if my parts don't work, if I have, erectile dysfunction, difficulty achieving orgasm, loss of orgasmic sensation and intensity, whatever it might be, then we get into the sexual biohacking things like the Gaines wave, acoustic wave treatments, and the red light therapy, and I recently last week got stem cells injected, my own stem cells injected into my clitoral, urethral, and paraurethral structures, my perineal structures, because I've done a lot of PRP, but I wanted to try stem cells and compare it, and it's been really fantastic too. So there's a lot of things one can do, including some supplements and things like that, libido botanicals, that can really support the body in what naturally happens, which is atrophy of aging. You can kind of reverse it and keep that going. So I feel like those are the three legs of the stool. There's the techniques, the communication, and the intimate wellness, which includes things like STI testing and that part of it as well. So that's who I am, a little bit about who I am, and I'm ready to go wherever you want to go.
Mhm. Yeah, and thank you so much for just all of that well-rounded information, because you really are coming at sex, at pleasure, at intimacy, all of that from so many different areas. It's not just one thing. And I respect so much that you said and you build this importance behind communication, because I agree. I think that, yeah, our communication is our roadmap to pleasure.
Yeah.
And so many people struggle with that communication. I've been in the coaching space, I've been in the
Yeah.
therapy space, I've been in the education space. And so often it is primarily women that are coming to me, sometimes men, but I find men are more apt to saying, hey, this is what I want to fuck, I want to do this, I want you, right? And for women it's like we can be so closed off. And so if somebody is wanting to, let's say, start with communicating with their partner, what are some suggestions that you have for how just even just starting that conversation with their partner?
Sure. Well, I like to make it really simple. I have a technique. It's from probably one of my most popular books, Sexual Soulmates: The Six Essentials for Connected Sex. And it's called the Sexual Soulmate Pact, PACT, like an agreement. And one of my things is that I believe that sexual soulmates can be co-created. It's not like there's some perfect person out there for you, because we're not taught lovemaking techniques and pleasuring techniques in any place other than through people like us. So thank you for having a podcast where we can have an uncensored conversation about the things that people really need to know. I mean, we're very lucky in this day and age to have this channel because all the other channels are censored. So the Sexual Soulmate Pact is really that foundation that helps you get over a couple of issues. One is, I don't know what I want. I just know what I'm getting isn't it. One of them is, I'm afraid to give my partner feedback because they'll feel like they did something wrong. They'll emotionally contract, they'll check out, they'll feel like they did a bad job, or they'll push back. I know what I'm doing, don't tell me. That's happened to a lot of people. That is not unusual, and that's a egoic self-defense mechanism, which is understandable because generally people want to do a really good job. And the Sexual Soulmate Pact, which you can get at sexualsoulmatepact.com. So it's a download. So I won't go into every single detail of it because I know we want to cover more ground here. But essentially what it does is it starts with the first issue, which is, I don't know what I want, I just know what I'm getting, isn't it? You actually do know what you want. And what's happening is that you're not listening to your body, you're not tuned into it. Sex is a sensual experience. And that means you use your senses. And one of your senses is called interoception. There's like proprioception, which is where is my body in space? How come I'm not whacking, something in front of me? But interoception is what's going on inside me. Is my stomach growling? Do I have gas? Does my big toe hurt where I stubbed it? Whatever it might be. Oh, I've got something in my tooth. It could be anything. You feel inside your body, and you can feel inside your body around what feels good, what doesn't feel good. Too hard, too soft, scratchy. I want more of this. Stay right there. I'm dry. I'm super wet. I'm really hard. I'm not that hard. I'm losing my erection, whatever it might be. And when one of my girlfriends is Deborah Kagan, and she's been my friend for decades, just like Emily Morse. And Deborah explained to me one day that the larynx and the vulva really look similar, and that they both have lips. And I thought, oh God, it's so true. What we need to do is listen to our vulva, which I like to call a yoni, Y-O-N-I, a tantric lovemaking word for the whole female genital system, not just the vulva, the outside, or the vagina, the inside, or the clitoris, one little part, because there's so much material in there. And I would like to talk more about what the vagina really wants in sex, because it's very different than what it's been getting, because what it's been getting is this kind of patriarchal perspective of what sex is that we see in porn, or that sex is for procreation only. So only thing that matters is intercourse. So we're rushing to intercourse, and that creates problems for the vulva and vagina owners, for the yoni owners. So when you listen to her and you speak with your upper lips what your lower lips are telling you, and you share it with your partner, then you can both be on the same page, because we run on a 28-day cycle. We run with the moon even after menopause. And we want something different, not just every time we make love, but in every moment of our lovemaking. We can turn on a dime with what we desire. We can go from, starting off, being a kitty cat and wanting to be held and stroked and, kissed and adored, to wanting to jump on top and take our pleasure cowgirl style, or being, kind of restrained or dominated or ravished, or we want to do the ravishing. And that can all happen in any given lovemaking date. And so if we really tune into it, every time we enter into a date, we listen to ourselves and we're like, you know what I could go for today? You know what sounds fun to me today? And what I found is that my partners, when I do that, the very first time I'm kind of training a new partner, they're a little taken aback by how verbal I am.
Mhm.
And they have to go through that process of getting used to having the information and not taking it personally. Because I tell them I live in an animal body. I just give her what she wants. I just tune into her. And then I just tell you what she's telling me so we can make her happy. Because if my little kitten or my lioness isn't getting what she wants, she's not going to have as good a time. And then she's not going to want sex again. And we want her to be happy. We want to feed our beast.
Mhm.
And so when a partner starts to get that feedback, they'll have moments in the beginning where they're like, ah, okay, is this better? And then they build up to, what do you want today? What does she want? What ideas do you have? And you run a menu for your partners. Well, what I'd really love to do is some cock appreciation, cock worship, which I know you had a segment on, and that's a really good one. Go back and listen to that if you haven't, with Rachel. Or maybe I want to be lifted up on the liberator wedge and use my Vim wand, which I love, while we have intercourse. Or maybe I want a long, leisurely, expanded orgasm date. Or maybe I want to do 69. Or maybe I want to put on my lingerie and do some sensual dancing for you in a photo shoot and have you verbally worship and adore me until you completely are drained of ideas about how much you love me, so I can get really turned on.
Mhm.
Whatever it is, I'm just throwing out some things I've done recently in the last week. What I find is that when you give her head, and I mean your yoni, when you let her run the show, when you tune in and tap into her desires, and she feels seen and heard, she's got a never ending list of fun, sexy ideas that feel the right thing to her that day. And then sex gets really exciting. Oh, I want to try this new thing. Hey, I want to put this prostate massager inside you and hold the remote control while you give me a yoni massage. And when you're doing really good things with it, I want to change the pattern, so I give you biofeedback without even talking. Whatever it is that you're doing, it gives you this kind of creative expression, and it lets your partner know they're giving you exactly what you need and want to your arousal ladder, which is a very different arousal ladder in a female vulva, estrogen dominant body, than the arousal ladder of the typical penis owning, testosterone dominant animal body. And so I think that sexual soulmate pact gives you, first of all, what it's a free download. It gives you step-by-step instructions, because guys want that. Just tell me what to do. I need a checklist. And it gives you stories and approaches and experiences that people have had, because women like a little more color around things.
And how much, as you're speaking around all this, I'm wondering how much is self-pleasure a piece of this for people, as in their part of their discovery of what they want? Do you recommend that for people to practice on themselves, or spend time with self to figure out what some of these desires, or even spark some creativity within them?
Of course. I think that one of the fundamental things that I teach is something that I call orgasmic cross training. And essentially, the way that your body works, and this is for male and female bodies both, this is my crystal bowl full of different cross training tools. And essentially, there are 8 kinds There are 8 kinds, excuse me, do that again. There are 8 kinds of tools for the yoni and 4 categories, if you will, of tools for the lingam being the penis. And when you start filling your pleasure chest up with these various types of tools, then you start activating and stimulating. Think about orgasmic activation. It comes in a couple of steps. The first one is you have to know, and you've heard your brain is your biggest sex organ, but why? Because what it does is it processes pleasurable sensations for you. It lets you know something feels shameful, painful, numb, or pleasurable. And anything that feels the first 3 ways can be transformed into the 4th way, the pleasure state, by essentially stimulating it with different types of sensation. And sex toys, which I think aren't toys, they're tools, can stimulate the vulva and the penis, prostate, axis with these different types of internal, external vibration, sensation, lickers, strokers, air stimulators. There's a lot of different types of tools. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're sending new signals through the neural pathways, the nervous system, up into the brain. And the brain is going, oh, wow, that actually feels good. And what's nice about these tools, in addition to hands and tongues and body parts, is that when you activate these different areas, you're actually bringing in blood flow to the tissue. And because if you think about a penis is like it half sticks out the body and it half goes in the body, but it's full of erectile tissue. And so if you double the size of the penis and then assume that about 90% of that penis is primarily erectile tissue, if I took that out, if I peeled it like a banana and I took it out and I put it on my hand, it would cover my hand in erectile tissue. If I take the clitoral, urethral, and perineal, the 3 erectile tissue systems of the yoni, out of my body and put them in my hand, it would cover my hand. And the thing is that erectile tissue, when it's flaccid, it has less surface area. But when it's engorged, tumesced, erect, it has more surface area. And so when you stimulate something with more surface area, it sends more signals to the brain, and the brain says, oh, that feels really good. That feels even better. And so the whole idea of doing that for self-pleasuring and integrating these tools into partnered play, as well as a lot of warm-up for engorgement, because our male partners might get a quick erection, but it's not a full erection. It doesn't go deep into the buried shaft. It's not spreading the pleasure deeply into his body. And the female body, because it has these little nooks and crannies of erectile tissue, it just takes longer to get all the blood flow in there, to get it puffed up. And it doesn't feel good until it is. It takes about 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes for the vulva, the yoni, to really get all that blood in there. And so often couples are done. They've already had intercourse and they're going to sleep before she's even gotten enough for sex to feel pleasurable. And so women have been rushed to intercourse because 1, we see that on porn. 2, our partners are testosterone dominant. They're, already turned on. They get a fast erection. They had morning wood. They had nighttime erections. They masturbate way more than most women do because they're wired to keep their semen fresh, right? Because they're supposed to pass on their genes. And so they're ready to go. And they kind of think that sex is intercourse, which is a very patriarchal, religious, old school thought process. Like sex is for procreation only. So the only thing that matters is intercourse. So that's what sex is. That's ridiculous, but that's kind of the norm. It's like, and then the other problem is that over time, women, men are kind of like ready to go. And so women are like, okay, like he's got his erection. So it's my job to satisfy him. And then they have sex where they're not orgasming. If they have intercourse, the number one thing women struggle with is orgasming from intercourse. It's so easy. It's a learned skill. I have, like a dozen techniques that will help any woman, every woman cross the gasm chasm that Dr. Laurie Mintz talks about, the orgasm gap. And the thing is that when you are getting enough engorgement and you use some of these intercourse techniques, you become massively multi-orgasmic during intercourse if you've been able to go up your arousal ladder in the time that you need, which means that what really helps a female body is what we currently call foreplay. But I don't think it's foreplay. That's that paradigm of everything's driving to intercourse. And I love intercourse. Don't get me wrong. My intercourse game is off the charts. I am massively orgasmic from intercourse, but all the things are sex. And so when we get out of that mindset and we start really thinking, oh, okay, so I just need to learn what to do. Oh, try these techniques, which by the way, I have at orgasmicintercourse.com. All it is you go there and it gives you list of a bunch of techniques and you can click on whichever ones you want. There's heart tongue, glissando, the dope flow sex state, oh God, what is it? Squatting tiger, bouncing lion, penis pivots, pompoir, and understanding actually how the vagina works itself, because people think about the vagina like an inside out penis, like a sheath, like a canal, like a tube. It's not a tube at all. It's like a flat little balloon you'd use to blow up a water balloon. It's got a round area in the back of the cave with like a little thin neck and a little sphincter muscle at the entrance. It's called the introital sphincter. And it's like a pocket. It's flat until you put something in it. And then it begins to balloon and tent up. Your cervix lifts up, you get more room in there. And what's nice about that is the vagina doesn't necessarily want that friction all the time. So having intercourse techniques that do more than just the old in and out really especially help the female body or the vagina vulva owning body start to really have fantastic orgasms from intercourse and oral pleasure from the breasts and the nipples and the kissing and the throat gasms and the core gasms. And I mean, it's endless. Sex will never let you down when you think about yourself as a beginner's mindset of what can I learn? Because when you're in learning mode, you're taking in new things and having new experiences and incrementing your skill sets. And that, I think, is really the approach that people should take. Like, I know nothing. I want to learn everything. I'm going to figure out what's turning me. I want to find my G spot. I want to female ejaculate. I want to have prostate orgasms. I want to become a multi-orgasmic man. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do if you come into it with, I'm not broken. It's just the whole construct of what sexuality is has been it's fed me a line of bullshit that's been doing a disservice to me, because it's just this kind of like old school patriarchal, let's have some matriarchal sex and everybody is way happier because it is way hotter sex.
Yeah. And I appreciate too that you mentioned, I think that that's a really important piece for people to take away from this. It is going at it from that learning aspect, whether it is self-pleasure or partnered play. And then play was the other piece of that. If you go from it as I'm brand new to this, or I'm coming at it from a place of curiosity and playfulness, I think that helps people to not feel that defeat that they might get if I'm not orgasming right away, or it's not working how the video said it was going to work, or how I saw it happen in porn, things like that. And remembering too that that we are all a work in progress. And so some people, right, when they try these new techniques, it's going to happen for them right away, but every body is different. And so really having that patience. And I, again, when you were speaking about the foreplay, I'm definitely on board with that. Sometimes I have to correct myself when I refer to that part of intimacy as foreplay. I'm like, no, because I preach, right? Sex is so much more than just penetration. So that foreplay is really part of the intimacy. And for people that are wanting for sex to last longer, even, right? Like that, if you include that, and even, that we talk about aftercare and whatnot, that's prolonging that sexual experience. So yeah, I think that this,
Yeah,
I'm
you do a good
loving it.
job with that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now you mentioned something, and I'm not sure if this aligns with our conversation or not, but you have mentioned something about there being a golden rule and then you have a platinum rule. Can you clarify what that is? Or maybe we've already touched on it without that term associated to it, but I'm curious. I saw that you speak on this and I'm curious what that is.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that is difficult for people is that if things are bad outside the bedroom, if you're not getting your overall relationship needs met, then it's much more difficult to surrender into intimate pleasure with your partner. And so kind of what the beginning of having a great sex life is understanding what your partner's relationship values are and giving it to them. And because your partner is often a different gender, we're often pair bonded with, male, female. That's the bulk of people. And I'm not saying that anything I'm saying here can't be applied to anyone across the gender spectrum with any, gender expression and what have you. But generally you're with someone who there's some polarity, right? There's some differences and, the opposite attract or whatever it might be. And you have some things where you're very similar, but some things where you're very different. So if you treat your partner the way you want to be treated, which is the golden rule, do as you'd have them do unto you, versus the platinum rule, which is treat your partner the way they want to be treated and tell them explicitly how you want to be treated to feel like you're in the best relationship in the universe. I have a little workbook. Now you can get it on Amazon. It's like $27 because it has to be printed and sent to you and all that stuff. It's called Relationship Magic. You can download it at myrelationshipmagic.com. And it's a workbook that's essentially a values elicitation. And what it does is it gets you to say, what is it you want from your partner? And rank order those things so that you basically come up with this top 4 things your partner needs to think about and do on a daily basis. And usually there's 1 or 2 matches and 1 or 2 complete differences. So for example, in my relationship, the number 1 thing I want from my husband is security. I like him to take care of me, body, mind, and spirit. And that looks like everything from good health care to some money in the bank to, tires on the car, being good, and our safe word if I'm out, being silly and somebody's bothering me. I'm very safe. The second thing that I want is freedom. I want you to totally take care of me and let me do whatever I want. I am a sovereign woman, but I need protection. I know what I want, what I like, and what I want to do. And my husband doesn't always want to do the things I want to do. And so he gives me a stable platform, and he's the wind beneath my wings. And I've been married for 32 years to allow me to have that freedom of experience. Like, I'm a big sexual biohacker. And last year I keynoted the biohacking conference. It was really fun with Dave Asprey. And this year I wasn't thinking I was going to go because I had a film shoot and it got pushed out. And so I was saying to my husband, I don't know, should I go? I'm not sure. He's like, baby, you got to go. You're the sexual biohacker. You go. Just go. I want you to go. Like, he's so good about things like that. A place where we really match is in honesty. About 10 years into our 30-year marriage, we realized that we had been doing what everyone does, walking on eggshells, avoiding discussions, withholding our emotions, stuffing our emotions, all these things, telling little white lies to not upset the apple cart, all these. We have so many words for not telling our truth. And we began to become more radically honest. And it's a practice, a mindfulness practice, as is our sexuality. It's a mindfulness practice. You keep having to bring yourself back to what it is that you're going for. And once we got really honest with each other, it was so juicy and it felt so much safer and so much more vulnerable and so much more intimate and so much more pleasurable that we never went back to the old way. I can say anything to my husband and he can say anything to me. And we've learned to be able to withstand the discomfort of the sensation of hearing things that are hard to hear. They become not so hard to hear. You're like, oh, okay. Oh man, I fucked that up. I'm super sorry, babe. Whatever it might be, it really, really helps. And so so that was one where we were very aligned. My husband loves passion. And for him, that means he wants to see me in sexy lingerie. He wants me to hug him and kiss him and touch him and be sexy with him. And it's perfect. I didn't used to know how to do that. And I've learned that because it's so important to him that it became something I wanted to teach others how to do. He likes growth. He knows I can see who he is and how great he is, even better than he can see himself, because he gets down in the weeds on stuff. He's a detail-oriented guy. And so I show him where he needs to go next. I guide him to his greatness, and he appreciates that. And it's just a very interesting difference when you start to understand how to get up in the morning and give your partner what they want from you instead of what you want from them. And when you go through the workbook, the exercise, I give you bunches of ideas. I teach you how to rank order it. And I teach you how to say to yourself, would I be in a relationship if I couldn't have this? And when you realize you have some must-haves, those get up onto the top of your list. And when you think about old relationships and what you didn't like about them, that's a clue for where your values were not being matched. And so this guided process of coming up with what you value and then communicating it in very concrete terms, like I did, healthcare, security, like I gave very specific examples in that of the things that I needed, the things that he needed, and then that's just what we do for each other. And then you've got a great platform for open dialogue, for feeling seen and met in your needs. Your relationship gets really good. And then that just fuels the intimacy in the bedroom.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so when you were just speaking in that, and this will be my last question before we jump off, but you were talking about there was a time in your life where you didn't know how to do that. And I think this ties into the number one thing that many of my female clients come to me is their issues with libido, not having desire, not knowing how to get turned on and all of that. So, and we wrap up with this, what are your tips on how to increase libido for people?
Sure. So there's libido, desire, and arousal, and they're really a Venn diagram. Libido is your health. It's your body. And so if your health is not good, your libido is low. That's distinct from your desire. Your desire is how you feel about yourself and how you feel about your partner. So once you get the kind of external, out of the bedroom relationship stuff handled, and that's not holding you back from desiring your partner, you have to look at what it is you want and how you feel about yourself. Do you feel desirable? One of the core wounds that people have is, I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. And so often you have to go and fix that issue. Or I'm unattractive. I'm not desirable. You have to look at those things. Body image issues are very big for the female because she's estrogen dominant. And because we are the prey and the male is the predator in our society and in our world, not just our society, around the world, masculine is a predator, feminine is a prey. That's why the whole, would I rather meet a bear or a man in the woods is a thing on Instagram right now, the meme, because we have to protect our safety. We are always running in danger. And so when we're in danger, we can't relax. And arousal begins in relaxation. So we've got to get our needs met and we've got to feel wanted and we have to feel we want. And then that leads us to the third piece, which is the arousal ladder. And for most women, you've heard the phrases responsive versus spontaneous desire. Generally, the masculine being, ready to go, more testosterone, nighttime erections, all the things I said, he's got this spontaneous desire and he's offering sex. And that means intercourse. And we're so far away from that. We've got our mind on a million things because we have to keep our reticular activation systems high because we are always trying to protect ourselves. And we're multitasking. That's how our minds work. We're multitaskers, not just this straight goal oriented kind of a mind, single focused. Oh, don't talk to me while I'm doing something. I can't even hear you. That's not us. You can talk to us. We could be juggling a plate and doing 3 things at one time. And so when our partner's like, do you want to have sex? And we say no, and they get rejected, we feel bad and we think it's our libido and we take it on as our fault. And that is just total malarkey. The actual thing is that we need small offers and we need to get relaxed before we can even have the letdown of our lubrication and our flow into sex. And so we need a lot of small offers that let us get into a relaxed mode so that we have an interest in moving toward intercourse, but we need all of that time to get there. And so we think there's something wrong with us, and there isn't. There is no low libido problem unless there's something wrong with your adrenal system or your gut microbiome or your hormone profile. And it's not all hormones. It's societally imposed patriarchal approaches to sexuality that don't serve the feminine, that are 90% of what is quashing our desire. The other thing that quashes our desire is sensation loss. When we don't get enough blood flow consistently to our genitals, we start and we age and our estrogen declines. If we're not using bioidentical hormone replacement, then we are losing blood flow, which means our capillaries contract, which means our nerves are no longer innervated by the blood. They can't exist, so they contract. And so the tissue starts to shrink. And basically, we have erectile dysfunction as the feminine body. Nobody talks about it, but that's where you get a Gainsway for her. You use your VFit Gold Vagina device. You take nitric oxide supplementation. You use your topical vulval estrogen replacement. You do these things, and then you get your pleasure toys and you orgasmically cross train and you reactivate that tissue. And then it's nothing wrong with you. And you come into it with this beginner's mind. I want to learn a bunch of new things. And then you've got a good platform. There's a lot there, but it's easy, doable, and fun and available.
Mic drop.
Oh,
I love that.
Yay. Thanks, Rachel.
Yes, thank you again so much for coming on. I feel like I could talk to you for days. You have so much information, so much to offer people. So again, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. And how, again, you have all these things to offer. Is there a place, a one-stop shop where people can go to find and access all of these things? And please share your social information because I know you have a great social account for people to follow as well.
Sure. I think my newsletter, my Sex Tips newsletter, is the place for the most wonderful, latest and greatest Susan Bratton gems of wisdom. And if you go to betterlover.com, you can sign up there. If you go to Personal Life Media, which has an archive of over 5,000 of my articles on every subject I've mentioned and a million more, you can sign up there. And then if you ever have any questions for me, you can just hit reply to any email. I personally get them and respond. You can follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Threads and TikTok and everything at my name, which is Susan, S-U-S-A-N, Bratton, B-R-A-T-T-O-N. Also, I forgot to tell you about my pleasure protocol. And this is what I want to send to you. Can I just tell you about that before we go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I work with this company for you, and they have this pleasure protocol that is absolutely wonderful. It's at pleasureprotocol.com. And essentially, there are CBD based botanical oils that trigger your own endocannabinoid system. One of them is a melt, and it's cocoa butter and botanicals and CBD that you insert, a little troche that you insert into the vagina. They also have booty melts, they have relief melts for periods and menopause. They have everyday melts for just general, just general moisture. And what I like about it is that it's hard to get lube up into the vagina or into the booty. And so when you pop this in and it melts and coats the vaginal, mucosal, or rectal lining, what's nice about it is that it just starts to activate sensation for you. You feel more pleasure. Then the second one is it's called Awaken Arousal Oil. And you essentially just put a couple of drops. It's not lube. It's an arousal oil. It's like a pre-lubricant.
Mm-hmm.
And what's nice about it is that it's great for people who are like, I don't even need lube. I've got plenty of wetness, but I want to feel more pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Or for people who are like, I'm really dry and I really do want to start more of my own lubrication. And what it does is it goes back to that mind vulva mind yoni connection. It sends those endocannabinoid signals to your pleasure healing system, and that starts that let down into the vulva, into the pelvic bowl of all the fluid, the blood flow. So you get more engorged, and more blood plasma seeps through the vaginal lining and into your entire yoni. And then they have their sex oil that you put on top if you want to have lots of slide and glide.
Mm-hmm.
And this triple combination works so well. And one of the things I like about it is that it's also kind of like an erotic play date. You get the pleasure protocol and you put the melt in and you put the awaken on, and you're doing yoni massage or you're doing lingam massage with the sex oil. You're doing all these things. It's a new and exciting experience. And when you do new things together, you're essentially getting into that, new relationship energy in your relationship that makes it really nice. So I like it for solo pleasuring as much as I like it for partnered pleasure. And I'd love to send you some, because I have been looking for 2 decades for something this magnificent, and it is really wonderful.
Wonderful. Thank you. I will happily receive. So thank you so much for that. Great.
Good. Yeah, I didn't want to forget that, because it's just such a nice thing to add into your sex life. It's just a simple, easy thing to do to create more intensity of pleasure, more sensation. The more blood flow and more brain, vulva, penis connection you get, the more pleasure you have. And that's what we're doing it for. It's not just for, I'm going to be close. It's let's come well, long, hard, intensely, 20 different ways, confidently, satisfying. I mean, that's what our body is for. And what's nice is that the pleasure is the antidote to the cortisol and the stress. The oxytocin and the orgasms are the antidote to the stress that creates the anxiety, the depression, the sleeplessness, the lowering of our life force. It is the increasing of our life force. You've said it yourself that our sexuality is our life force. I don't know exactly how you phrased it, but I heard you say that. And so I think that that's something that's very, very important, is that there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to learn some skills, and they're all available.
Yes, they are. Thank you so much. This was a joy speaking with you today. I'm so glad you came on.
My pleasure.
Thank you.